Hi, this is János, it's Riverbird Audio, and today it's another technical video. And you might be wondering, if you are not so much DIY oriented, why am I spending so much time talking about these technicalities? And that's because even if you are not going to build an amplifier, but I really warmly recommend that you get familiar with how amplifiers work, how loudspeakers work. So when you are in a position to buy one for yourself, you know what you are buying. Because how all of us start out in audio is we read the brochures, we need the ads, we read the hype, the blah blah, and you know, there's a price tag, and you know, if it has like really nice outlook, like they spent a lot of money on the design, on the presentation, and on the marketing, then it justifies the asking price, right? And then as we grow more and we experience more, we realize that it's not as simple as double the money buys you twice as good sound. It's vastly more complex than that, and people try to orient themselves by looking at reviewers, look at review channels, what is people's opinion listening to stuff. And that gives you a little bit more to orient, but it's not the ultimate thing. And I got a lot of comments that they bought stuff based on reviewers' recommendations, and they were the worst disappointments that they ever had. But there's also some people who have, they heard a review of something or a recommendation, they got it, and they love it. So, but as you see, it's like a Russian roulette. So like you pull the trigger, and either it's fine, or you get just bah. And what I'm doing here is going beyond the the baby in the candy shop and the Russian roulette phase. I'm giving you technical knowledge, like what's inside something, how things work, how they contribute towards producing sound, and how that contributes towards your happiness. And if you are comfortable with these things, and you are at least informed to a degree how these things work, when you look at the gear that's presented to you, you can ask educated questions about it. What's inside? What's inside the box? How is it ticking? And when they tell you what's inside, then you will be better able to connect that. Okay, and they are asking this much for it, so then you will be able to tell, okay, is it like asking too much for it, or there is something fishy going on, because there is no way on planet Earth that they can sell a properly designed technology like that for that kind of price. So that was my long introduction to the topic today, which is power supplies, and specifically vacuum tube power supplies. And in the past I have already talked to you guys that there are so-called pi filters, and that's the old school way of filtering. So I'm just drawing here, and I will draw a double pi filter. Okay, so here it is. So as you see here, this is our source, that's what we get from the rectifier. And first there is a capacitor that goes between the high voltage side and the ground, and then there's a choke that is in series with the signal path on the high voltage side, and there's another capacitor to ground, another choke, and then a more capacitor to ground. And this is our filtered high voltage that your amplifier is getting. So when you are buying an amplifier, then actually the cheapest way to build an amplifier is to have a regulated power supply that's regulated by transistors. And they sell it to us as, wow, this is good stuff, because it can provide very low impedance power supply, but it will give a very mechanical sound. So And for you, if you don't mind mechanical sound, you just want power, you just want slam, that type of feel, you want your tube amp sound like a solid state amp, then you want a regulated power supply. And it will sound like a solid state amp because solid state amps have regulated power supplies. And surprise, surprise, 95% of the sound that you hear from the amp is actually the power supply. That's what defines the sound. And the power supply itself has a bigger impact on the sound, whether it's tube gear or solid state gear, whether it's push-pull or single-ended, whether it's ultralinear or triode. So anyway, so that's why power supply is so paramount. And that's why I want you, even if you don't build anything, to know more about it, because this is going to give you so much power. And also a little explanation why power supplies for single-ended tube amplifiers are so expensive. Because you need a very quiet power supply. So it means that from the rectifier, what you are getting here, that's a choppy DC. So it means that it has hum, tremendous, like hundreds and hundreds of volts of hum. So if you have a 500 volts B plus supply, then you have that 500 volt hum. Basically, that's how your supply starts. And when we have the first capacitor, it's called C1. So if you read schematics, then it will be represented as a C1. Then that's going to get that gigantic ripple. It's called ripple when it goes from 0 volts up to the maximum of the supply voltage. So that capacitor is going to charge up, and then after it's charged up, then it discharges into this inductor. So that's where it discharges. And then the inductor will send through that charge and also send through the voltage that it stores, because inductors, they store voltage. They are storage devices just like capacitors. And while capacitors store charge, inductors store voltage. So that's why inductors supply, when you put inductor in your power supply, is so important, because it's not a passive component like a resistor that resists the flow of electricity and cuts down the hum, but it's an active thing, a thing that stores voltage. So the difference between a choke here and the resistor here is that the choke here, it quiets down the hum, resistor also quiets them down, but the choke also stores voltage, so that when voltage is needed, it's able to get the voltage to the next stage. A resistor, no, it cuts down the voltage, so when voltage is needed, it doesn't provide voltage. The more current you need, the less voltage the resistor will give you. And for a choke supply, the more voltage you need, the more voltage the choke can give you. And the thing is that the smaller that C1, that first filter capacitor, is in your first supply, the more voltage the choke will store. And for a tube amplifier, they need primarily voltage to operate. So it's able to shunt like tremendous voltage demands. When the amplifier is requiring it, it can suck out all the voltage it wants from the choke. And now, what happens is that we essentially need these structures there to get that monstrously high choppy DC filtered out to a ripple-free 500 volts, 200 volts, 100 volts, 1000 volts, whatever you have, but very quiet. Preferably less than a millivolt ripple riding on those hundreds of volts. That's an average good single-ended amplifier. For if it's a push-pull amplifier, you can have a volt ripple riding, and because of the push-pull immunity, you will have pretty low hum level at the loudspeakers. Now, your problem is if you change over with a push-pull amp that's quiet, with your average loudspeaker to an ultra efficient loudspeaker, it will hum. You can hear the hum. And the solution for that is just most push-pull amps just have a single capacitor, and that's all there is supply, and then you have the KT88 or KT180, something like that. They just put a single 500 microfarad cap here, and that's it. And that will be perfectly quiet for a low efficiency loudspeaker, but put it ultra efficiency there, and that's what you hear when you turn it on. And to get rid of that, then you need to put in the pi filter, so that you cut down that hum to the millivolt level, and then it will be nice and quiet. So it doesn't mean that every push-pull amplifier, every push-pull tube amp has a single capacitor input supply and you are done. No, that's just the basic recipe for basic mainstream loudspeakers. If you want to go to step beyond that, to have like very high efficiency loudspeakers, you need to take care of that power supply by putting a choke there and then the pi filter. So that's push-pull amps. For single-ended amplifiers, tubes, triodes, even single-ended transistor gear, you do not have that push-pull hum cancellation, so you need to add a second pi filter after the first. And then you will have, if you have like a double pi filter supply, then you can have like an extremely quiet supplies, and that's what I like when I have really high efficiency loudspeakers with them. Then it provides a very different experience, even though it slows down the supply. But if you provide with a big enough transformer that can supply it, you provide chokes with low enough DC resistance, then it still can charge up really fast. And you need an amplifier that doesn't have high current demand. And for example, with the Darling amplifier, it has a lot of a current demand, like 20 milliamps per channel per output stage, plus a few milliamp for the input stage, so like a 23 milliamp per channel. That's very little. So that's why you can get by with double pi filter, not doing too much problem there. And for example, if you have been listening to my channel, I have my main amplifier, which is a single-ended amplifier that has a 700 volt power supply. That's also a double pi filtered supply, but there I have the first part of the supply is I have a ginormous power transformer supplying the juice that goes to a choke, which is the bottleneck of that supply, because it's a relatively high DCR choke, I think 60 ohm DCR, about 6 henries, and that feeds a second capacitor, C2, and that feeds, so that's the first pi filter, that 6 henry choke plus 20 microfarad oil cap. And then what I have after that is pi filter for each channel separately, and that's how I keep the resistances lower and then the charging speeds higher, because basically by keeping them separate for each channel, it charges at double the speed. And that amp, so that supplies only the power stage. So the input stage has its dedicated power supply, so it needs only, now I'm using 30 milliamps per tube, so basically it has a very negligible current draw of 720 volts. So, and it's the fastest amp I ever heard. So it has such a ability to provide instantaneous sound, like the hardest thing, the fastest thing I can think about, two instruments. One of them is the sitar, sharod. So these Indian instruments, which are just incredibly dynamic and incredibly high speed sounds, and I have my friend Taltos. He plays these instruments, and I played with him tampura when he plays his sharod. So sitting next to him, I have lots of experience experiencing that sound in my ear, played by an extremely talented musician playing the instrument. So I know how it sounds, and just impossible to reproduce. But that amplifier with the double pipe filter is astonishing. It when I compared it to an excellent solid state amplifier, and which has a power supply that's crazy fast, it was left in the dust. And that's what people associate with solid state amps, that they can just give like instant power. They might not be the last step in refinement, but no one can deny that they can be fast as fuck. And when I compare the two, it was not even close. It was just so different that I couldn't believe my ears. But well, I did believe my ears. It was just shocked beyond measure. So do not just think that double pipe filter is going to be slow in every circumstances. It is just when built to the demands of the amplifier, it's incredibly fast. But it will be fast when you have low current draw. So when your amplifier is optimized for low current, high voltage, then it can be lightning fast. However, what people want mostly is like the maybe like a KT 180 or KT 2000, KT 5000, God knows which is the current KT now. Every year it seems that they just double their power output. They just need double the current, more and more current. So then having a double pipe filter is suicide. So that's why you cannot get those amplifiers to either have a super low sound floor, or if you want to get their sound floor lower with a double pipe filter. By the way, no one does that because it's too expensive and too heavy to build a double pipe filter to feed like a 200-300 watt beast. That would be impossible to pay for, and impossible to carry, because the weight would double for that amplifier to put big enough chokes that are able to handle it. So what they would do really is to put small enough chokes that a person can afford to carry, and to carry like this, and then it would sound slow and sluggish, and that's why they just don't build it. So but going back to the tuning choke, I still haven't touched base on the tuning choke. That will be on the next video, hopefully. God knows. Bye bye.